That's right. You're stuck with me today. So there's still time to run. Well, we actually have the privilege today of having the little guys with us today. So we're going to do things a little bit more upbeat. So you guys all got to be a little bit more upbeat and ready to go and more interactive today. We are in a series going through the book of Proverbs, just kind of talking about some nuggets of wisdom that we can find in the book of Proverbs. And today we're going to focus on finding the foolish. And so this sounds easy. Jim talked a few weeks ago. He talked about wisdom and how to become wise. And so if you need to learn that, you might have to go back to that first week that Jim taught on. But today we're going to kind of talk about finding the fools in our world. And sometimes we find them in our mirror. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. So to kind of get us in the right mindset, we're going to look at some videos. And here's what I need. This is some interaction from you. We're going to show a video. The moment you see somebody doing something foolish, you all have to yell. Yes, kids, you get to yell in church today. You ready? And this is adults. You yell, "You fool!" Okay, everybody, let's practice. "You fool!" You fool. I didn't see any fingers go, "You fool!" There we go. That's good. It's got to be louder than that, though. So as soon as you see, the moment it turns from being like normal every day to "you fool," you got to yell "you fool." And there's going to be 4 or 5 chances to do this. You guys ready? Okay, let's roll the video. Nice card. 1, 2, 3. You fool! Right about there. Oh, you fool. Beautiful. 60,000 cards. Guy doing his job, working. Everybody's running away from this guy. Oh, you fool! Hey, wait, nothing had happened yet. Come on. Oh, yes. Well, those are some 5 little moments of people being completely fools, right? You guys started saying "you fool" in the skydiver a little too soon. I mean, nothing had happened yet. I mean, come on, that's not fair. See, when we watch videos of these fools, it's so easy to identify the moment that they just became fools. It's so simple. And in fact, in prepping this message, the reason I'm not going to do a very good job today is I found myself watching hours of these videos instead of prepping my message. Because I was just sitting there, just loved watching them. Oh, look at this guy. And you just watch these people do just into calamity, just broken bones. I think they should do what they do with when you go to Dairy Queen now and they put the number of calories in your ice cream, just completely kill your joy of going. All these videos, they should put medical expenses, days off work, brain cells damaged, all that on all those videos. And we'll see if that helps those people, because they kill my Dairy Queen every week. Well, it's easy to identify the fools when they're in a video and we're catching a snippet of a moment in time when you know that we look easily and we go, that is just foolish. That is just insane. Why would you even think that was going to turn out well? And so what we find is we find ourselves kind of in this world. We look at other people and go, they're fools, but we rarely start looking at the true impact of the fools in our world. And this is what we're going to kind of talk about today is some of us are fools also. Some of us, if we're really honest, and we're going to look at the definition of fool in the biblical sense, and all this is out of the book of Proverbs. But I want to start with a passage, and if my goal is today, if you walk away with nothing else today, remember we learned last week or the week before, we only learned 5% of what you hear you will ever remember. So I'm just going to give you your 5% up front, and it's going to be this verse right here. Put it up on the screen for me. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. If you can remember that verse and you can apply that verse to your life, you are going to go way farther and we can all just leave. Seriously, because this verse is big. Because think about this verse. Walk with the wise and become wise, or for a companion of fools suffers harm. Because here's the issue that we think about when we start thinking about the fools. Am I okay? I work with some fools. No, it's not. Sorry. I'll stay right here for now. Okay. So when we walk with the wise, we become wise. That makes sense. But here's the thing. For a companion of fools comes to harm. Now you think, well, I'm just a companion of a fool. I'm not the fool. If you remember back to your high school days when you were younger, if you're young, you're already thinking that you're living in this moment. You think about the people you hung out with. And you thought, I'm not a fool. I'm a pretty good kid. I'm a pretty good guy. I'm a pretty good girl. I'm solid. Now my friends, on the other hand, they're fools. They're complete fools. What normally happened when you hung out with them? Who usually got in trouble right along with them most of the time? We did. We hung out with fools who we became to harm. I always define it this way. Fools are like hand grenades. Eventually, they're going to go off. And they're going to send shrapnel in all directions to every person around them. It's just a matter of time. The pin is already pulled. They're walking around like this, and you're hanging out with them. That's how kind of maybe you're foolish too then at that point. But you're hanging out with them. They're fools. It's easy to identify the fools in the videos. It's easy to identify somebody walking around with a hand grenade. But it's a little tougher to identify the fools spiritually. And that is really what Proverbs is addressing. It's addressing the spiritual fools. Now, you might find them doing foolish stuff like the things you saw in the videos. But more than likely, the spiritual fool is hidden a lot better than those. And so we have to figure out, how do I identify the fools? And I'll tell you a story. You help me identify the fools in my story. So I was on police duty. Those who don't know, I do real estate. It's my full-time job. I'm a reserve sheriff deputy for Johnson County. And so part of that, last Wednesday, a week ago or so, I'm on patrol, and I'm going down State Road 37. And I'm just cruising along, and my little radar detector shows 110. And I'm like tapping it. There must be something wrong. They give you 110. And then sure enough, this white Mercedes is coming right down the other direction, doing 110 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. First time I've ever cut through a median, because I'm in a Dodge Durango. I'm not catching this thing if I turn around at the next corner. I cut through the median. I pull the guy over. He pulls over, thankfully. Wasn't like a pursuit or anything. Pull him over. Walk up to the door, and there's 4 people in it. 2 boys in the front, 2 guys in the front, 18 and 19. In a white Mercedes. I'm like, oh, yeah, 110. I'm like, do you know how fast you're going? Maybe 100. Little faster. 110. Really? Yeah. And you think part of his mind's probably going, cool, that's me. No. So I'm like, what are you thinking, man? You're doing 110. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday. So it's rush hour. It's like he's racing between 2 groups of cars that got stopped at stoplights. And he's, well, we're just trying to go to a lake house, and we're going to spend the weekend at a lake house. And I look in the back seat, 2 young girls. How old are you ladies? 17? 17, 18, 19. So now he's endangering a minor. Another charge. So it goes from just being a ticket, normal, now it's reckless driving. So I go, well, just wait here. I'm going to go see if I'm going to arrest you or not. And so I just love that kind of do that to them. Because and you sit back in the car for a while, and they're going, oh, my gosh, am I going to handcuff? So I come back to the car, and I tell him, hey, you're getting summoned to court, which is like arresting him. And I say, and he's just like, really? I go, yeah, you're going to appear in front of a judge. He already on his license, he already had like several speeding tickets. Not surprising, right? So he was not like new to this. But this time he had gone so fast that now he was going to appear in front of a judge. I chose not to take him in handcuffs. But so you're thinking, he's a fool. He'd had warnings, he'd got tickets, he'd had been through it. He knew what he was doing. He's a fool. The story gets better. 2 17-year-olds in the back seat. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I need you guys to call your moms. Call your parents. I want to talk to them. First girl calls and talks to the mom. I go, hey, just want to let you know, I found your 17-year-old daughter with some 18-year-old boy going to a lake house. Do you know she was going to a lake house? Yeah. Okay. Did you know your daughter was in the back seat of a car doing 110 miles an hour in a 55? No, but he's really a good kid. It's okay. I said, do you want her to go on with this kid? Yeah, it's okay. And I'm just like, really? Gets better. Second parent. Second mom called, talked to her. Yes, this is Johnson County Sheriff's Office. Hey, just letting you know your daughter's in a car, 110 miles an hour, a whole story. She's going to a lake house with some 18 and 19-year-old kid. And I said, she goes, well, I don't know him real well, but Sally knows him real well, and she says he's a good kid, so it's okay. Exactly. She's going, you're fool. The kids are saying, you fool. And I'm just like, I'm dumbfounded. I want to put my taser through the phone and what is wrong with you people? What is wrong? But you see this foolishness, and see, that's more foolishness in reality. It's not jumping out of an airplane. It's just the reality of decisions that expose the foolishness of people. And it goes much deeper than just being just kind of just dumb. It comes to being to this point where it's life-changing, because the mom's foolishness is now impacting the 17-year-old girl's foolishness, who's already riding with a fool in the front seat. Who in the story do you think is going to get blown up and get hurt? Probably her. Probably the two girls. They're likely didn't crash. So that's how this works. And so we look deeper at fools. It's easy to identify there, harder until we look through the depth of the situation to find the fools. Well, we're going to look at the three types of fools today. Am I allowed to stand? No, I'm not. Okay. So, am I switching out microphones really right here in front of everybody? Just the box part? Is this better? Am I back on? Okay. Can I move? Yes, we're good to go. Okay, no. Okay, let's get back on track. Well, we're going to talk about, I know, I'm a fool. I know, it's easy to identify. Well, we got three types of fools we're going to look at. We're going to look at three types of spiritual fools. Sorry. It's over there when you need it. Okay. So we're looking at three types of spiritual fools. And the first one is called the simple fool. The simple fool is kind of the naive, gullible person who really is sometimes just is kind of clueless. You've met him. Let me just be really honest here. How many people know somebody who's really, really, really smart, but really, really gullible? First distinction I want to make today is brains and book knowledge does not equal wisdom, okay? They are not consistent words, okay? They are not consistent ideas. You can be really smart and be really a fool. And so in this thing, when we get to simple fools, I'm not talking dumb people. I'm not talking people who are uneducated. I am talking people who are gullible, who are swayed easily into any kind of argument, any kind of discussion. They get swayed very easily. We often, sometimes, we get them off the hook. We say, well, they're just so innocent. They didn't know any better. But if we look biblically, that's not true. We all have in us, none of us are innocent at any point when we're born. We're not born knowing everything. We're not born wise. We're not born innocent. And so they're not innocent. So you can't let people off in this level, in this stage. You can't let them off the hook saying, well, they're just innocently falling into that. They, at some level, know what they're doing. And if they don't, they're still going to be held responsible for it. But they're still a simple fool. Now, simple fools don't really have the intent. They're usually just walk around and do what everybody else is doing. You know, we call them followers sometimes. Sometimes we make, like I said, we find them in places where there's somebody else who's a bigger fool around them. And that's where we're going to talk a little bit more about how the many different levels of fools. This is the least foolish person. How many people, if you were honest, in high school, especially adults, you were kind of a follower? You kind of got caught up in the scene. You got kind of caught up in what everybody else is doing. And it's not like you intently said, hey, I'm going to go do something silly and dumb tonight. It's just you were just always around the people doing it, and you were always the one just on the outskirts of it, but you found yourself getting caught up in it. That is the simple fool. The simple fool also, easily swayed, gullible, and not innocent. Here, look at this passage here. This is out of Proverbs. It says this: the simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. The wise fear the Lord and shun evil. I'm trying to make sure I get the right translation. But a fool is hot-headed and yet feels secure. The person who in the simple stage is kind of so clueless, they think they're safe. They don't see the harm around them. And so today, by the time we leave today, I kind of want to make sure that anybody who falls into this category, that you've been awakened to the fact that you might be a fool, or you're hanging out with other fools. Okay, and I feel bad calling you guys all fools. We called you guys idiots a few months ago, I remember. But that wasn't a good term. This was not such a good term. So this is fools. Now, the simple fool normally finds themselves in the middle of a mess all the time. The next one is the tough one. And this is where a lot of us are going to fall into. The next fool is this. We're just going to call them simply the fool. They're not simple. They're complacent. They know right from wrong. The simple fool, they might get away. They know right from wrong, but they don't fully understand. They're not fully aware that they're making a decision to be a fool. The fool stage knows full well what right and wrong are. There's no way that they can say, I didn't know any better. But the fool still chooses to be foolish, to do folly. Now, when we say folly, what do we mean? We mean things that are against what God desires for us. We're talking about the Ten Commandments. We're talking about, let's go beyond that. We're talking about the things that the Bible lays out that are good and bad for us, things that are going to help us and hurt us. The fool knows the difference and still chooses to do foolish things. They can't claim any form of innocence in the fact. They're usually complacent. They really just don't care anymore. If you're a John Cougar Mellencamp fan, the Authority song, I fight authority, authority always wins. They know authority is going to win, but they still do it. They're going to fight it to the end. Even though they know the final outcome. They know the truth. They choose not to follow. They know the truth. They choose to be fools. It takes away any kind of out clause. Other things I put down was this. They choose wrong. This is one thing that's funny with the fools, though, and this is where they're so attractive to especially young people and old people. They're kind of fun to hang out with. We all kind of are drawn to people who kick the society, that would say, oh, we're not going to listen to society. Let's just kick off and do our own thing. Let's be independent. And they claim to be independent, but they're really just being foolish. They're trying to fight the authority that they know is going to win in the end. They're kind of fun to hang out with sometimes. They're attractive, especially for your young people. They're attractive to hang out with. We need to teach young people, though, that they're fools. And they're a hand grenade walking around ready to explode at any moment. Other words I put down, they can't see the doom in front of them. They can't see the doom. They can't see that things are going to go bad and going to go wrong. Here's the biggest one. They don't listen to anyone else. They are always right. They're the ones in the traffic. They think all the people going slower than them are stupid. Anyone going faster than them are idiots. If you're not going the same speed as them, it's got to be something wrong with you people. A fool does not understand that at some point in time, they don't know everything. They usually think they know everything. They will let you know that they think they know everything. They will normally try to control you. They are normally the ones who take the simple and lead them astray. The fool is the most common fool we deal with. The only time they really agree with God is when God agrees with them. Do you hear that? If you find yourself going through the Bible and picking out the parts you like and not the other parts you don't like, you might be a fool. If there's certain things in life that you say, I know that I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, you might be a fool. If there's a time and a place where you think that you can be and not get caught up into the habits of the people around you, and it's not going to affect you, you might be a fool. If you think it's okay to go on certain websites or go to certain stores or go into certain bars or whatever, and you're not going to get caught up in the moment, you might be a fool. You see, they think that they can handle everything, do everything, control everything. And if it's all right, as long as it's okay with them and it's fun and enjoyable, it's okay. That is just foolish thinking. It's putting yourself before God's desires. Notice I'm not saying some of these things are not really wrong. They're just foolish. And that's where people don't like dealing with this whole wisdom fact is this. Because sometimes there are things that can be not really directly like in the Bible, 10 Commandment, wrong, but they're still foolish to do. I'll tell you a story. I had this one young man. I might have told you a story before. He was 23 years old. Hit on every girl in my young adult group that I was running at the time. Would basically try asking them out all the time. His idea was to become he wanted to go do ministry at a place where girls dance. I'll leave that for the adults to figure out. That's an adult-only comment. How foolish is that? To think that some guy is going to go into a place like that and do ministry. Just silly, isn't it? It's foolish. He was a fool. Nice kid, but he was a fool. So those are the kind of things that we run into when we deal with the fool. Remember, complacent, fight authority. They basically, they're always right, and no one else is wrong. Look at this one here. This is the passage out of Proverbs. It says this: the way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. So as we go through this, just want to kind of also do this. Make sure you see the contrast. Usually in every one of these passages, you'll see a contrast. The fool does this, the wise does this. The wise do this, the fool does this. You'll see the contrast throughout every passage we look at. The way of the fool seems right to them. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to want to listen to you. But the truth is there. The last fool is this one. And this one usually has a couple different names. I chose the word mocker because I just think it's kind of funny to say. Sometimes also in the Bible, you'll see Proverbs, you'll see it called scoffer. And it's kind of that person who not only just disagrees or thinks they're right, but they're taking it to a whole nother level. These people are intent on destruction. This type of fool is the one that seeks out to tell you that you're wrong. That in an argument, they're the ones that create all kinds of friction because they are the instigator of it all. You can't have a discussion with them. Their goal is, like I said, the big word to remember on this one, intent on destruction of others. The greatest mocker, scoffer mentioned in the Bible is the devil. And that is the intent of this. That's the intent, is not only just to sway the simple, but to suck the fools with them into being away from God and being away from right and wrong, being away from what they know to be true. It's destruction. If you find yourself in really the fool or the mocker situation, you normally have troubled relationships. Because this intent of thinking that you're always right and the intent of actually trying to beat down the other person, that is what kind of defines these two forms of fools. If in your relationships you find that you are always at battle with somebody, or that when you get involved in the relationship, things go bad, it might be because you're a fool. Now, I'm saying this not to be mean to us, because you know what? We've all been there. I've been a fool many, 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 many times. But until we realize that we're a fool, we don't change. I want to do a little illustration. Let me read a few passages for you. This is the mocker. The mocker is the most difficult one to deal with. The mocker, matter of fact, there's sections in Proverbs. If you want to have some fun, whenever you see the word mocker or scoffer, you look at how Solomon, who is basically showing wisdom in God, how God deals with them, sometimes says, get away from them. Stay away from them. In some little verses, I didn't put them up here because I didn't want to be too mean. He says, get rid of them. Like, finish them off. Look at this verse here. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. So we don't use the word rebuke very much, and I know kids don't understand the word rebuke, but think of the word correct. If you get very, very angry when someone corrects you, then you might be struggling with this type of this type of fool. If you overreact, now I'm not saying none of us want to be corrected, do we? Nobody wants to be corrected. It hurts our feelings. It makes us feel sad inside. We feel insecure. But if it causes you to be angry and to lash out and to go off on people, this is what you're battling with. If you do not handle, even when you know that you're wrong and you won't admit you're wrong, and you know inside, come on, let's be honest, inside we know we're being wrong sometimes. We know we're being unreasonable. We know we're being drama kings or queens. We know we're overreacting. If you're not willing to admit it, this is your battle. You might be a fool. Look at this other ones. Fools mock at making amends for sin, but goodwill is found among the upright. The fool is unwilling to deal with the sin in their own lives. The mocker is unwilling because they have ignored it. They've become so hardened to it, they don't want to deal with it. If you find yourself in relationships with people who are unwilling to admit their faults, even though there's a glaring, see, this thing with those videos we watch, it is so obvious these people are foolish. And a lot of the times, those of us who have had moments of being foolish and folly and done dumb stuff, everyone else around us sees it already. Everyone else identifies it. You know people who you're basically watching the video of their life waiting for the crash. You're watching them and you know because of who they're hanging out with, where they're going, what they're saying, their attitude. You know how the video is going to end. It's going to end in a crash. But the person in the video, if you don't see it, if you don't get it, if you've had people tell you, hey, you're going down a wrong road. Hey, you're heading for trouble. Hey, when your relationships are battled because of you, then you're being a mocker. You're beyond the fool. You've turned into a mocker. If you hang around with foolish people, you'll come to harm. The mocker will destroy you. You got to be careful of them. This is where God delivers a warning. Let's put this passage in here. Because this is out of Proverbs 1:22. How long will you who are simple love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery and fools hate knowledge? It's a warning, a question, all tied up in one. How long are you going to maintain that attitude? Because, look at the next verse. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. It's a warning. It's a warning that if you walk in your foolish ways and you continue, you will come to harm. And you'll probably take those around you with you. This is not as fun as some of the other messages, huh? But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. It's a warning. It's a warning that says this: there are consequences to your decisions. Your choice to be a foolish person has consequences. And when I say this, each one of us could probably get up and share a story where this was so true. There's a couple hundred people in this room. I guarantee every one of us has a story we could tell of, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway, and this is the damage of my life it caused. This is what I chose to do at this point in time. It sounded good at the time, but I'm still living with regret. Years and years later. We're not immune to this. But if we're still doing it, and we're still continuing in it, the warning has been given. The warning has been sounded. The bells are ringing off. They're saying, you're a fool. Change. I want to give you a little illustration here. So my kids, and this kids, maybe you guys like this game too. Let me know. Can you put one of the slides up for the game of life? So can you just put the picture up? So this is the game of life. My kids love playing this game. And it has this mentality. It's really simple. It's this. As long as you go straight, you get to these cool little choices here. I think, what's that one say? Choose the safe road or the risky road? You ever been at that point in your life? You know the safe road, but you go, no, that road looks really cool and fun, but it's risky. How about the next one? This is when you chose to get married. Some of you are like, darn, I wish I would have passed that day. No, just kidding. You guys all love your spouses. But there's that day and time. Look at this one. You get to spend for how many kids you have. This is the game of life. This is the game of life. It's really pretty fun, isn't it? Now, I think this is funny because here's the one good thing in this game. At the end of the game, you get $100,000 per kid at retirement. That changes things, doesn't it? I was like, So I kind of like that game because look at here's retirement. Look at the next one. This is retirement. There's really only two choices. It's a country scene or the mansion scene, whichever one you want. There's no bad scene. There's no poverty. There's no poor. There's no reality. It's either one or the other. Now I say this because this game, there's a track in this game, and it's this game of life. It's this game of there's one track that you can take, and you have decisions you can make along the road. But in reality, there's only this way and this way you can really go. Now, you might have your little split-offs at time to time, but really, you can only go one direction in it. And I want to turn this here. I'm going to turn this on for you. I apologize to all you guys over here. You're going to get blinded for a few minutes. She's covering her ears. I said blinded. Sandra. So here's the thing. I just want to give you a little illustration of how this works and how wisdom and foolishness works. Is when we choose to follow God, we're walking into the light. When we choose to do what's right and be wise in our steps, we walk towards the light. The problem is, as soon as we choose to be foolish, we walk back to our dark shadows. We turn our back on God. We often like to say this, well, I'm going to play over here in this gray area. But in the game of life, there's wisdom and there's foolishness. There's no in between. There's no side thing that you get to create on your own. And this is one of the other marks of a fool. A fool thinks this, I can play here and not really hurt God, but look, I'm turning my side to God. I'm turning my back to God. When I choose to do foolish decisions, it's not just a little, oh, God won't mind. It's just a little step that I'm going to do. It's not really a big deal. You're turning your back on God and his desires for you. You miss the beauty and the light of what God has to show for you. Matter of fact, let me show you another video. Can you put the other video up here? Tell me when you see the fool. That's Brody. Tell me when you see the fool. Oh.
Are you okay?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh.
When did I become a fool? When I turned around and I put my back, thinking I could walk backwards to God. When I thought I could walk backwards down the path and still have all the joy and I get to see. Look what I'm looking at. I'm looking at me on the wall. I'm seeing me. When I do foolish things, I'm really not worried about what God thinks. I'm looking at me. I'm looking at this dark, shadowy part of me. I'm looking at the things that are as I go further and further away. I go from maybe just being a simple fool to a fool to out here. I'm a mocker. When we choose to do foolish stuff, it's not just a simple foolish thing. We like just to blow it off. You're turning away from God. You're focusing on the shadow of you, the empty you. That's what your focus becomes, is you. And Satan's going to use that to destroy you. Don't think you can walk backwards to God. He wants and desires not to harm you. But when I'm walking this way, when I was looking forward on that path and that trail that day, I would have seen the big, huge rock in the middle of the road. I would have seen the dangers and the cliffs off to the side. I would have seen the pitfalls. I would have seen all those things that might attack me because they're lit up by God's light. But the moment you turn your back on God, darkness, shadowy, I become the focus. If you struggle with being a fool, it's time to change. It's time to get away from living just looking at you and coming to the point in a moment where you finally admit that God is the truth. that there is truth, there are boundaries, there is authority, there are laws and boundaries in this world. There is a right way to have a relationship. We're to forgive. There's boundaries that God puts around us to keep us safe. If you want to deny that, you're a fool. And like the Authority song, who always wins? Authority. It's going to win. Now, I just want to share a few things more with you guys. We're going to wrap up. Wisdom is being humble enough to learn what God desires and bold enough to do it. The fool knows what they should do. Doing it is the hard part. The Bible says this, those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. If you desire to be a wise person, here's the method. Simple and easy. I try keeping it easy because I know you remember 5%. It says this. It says, listen humbly to God's truth. It might come in the form of the scripture. It might come in the form of a wise person around you. It might come from within, that you just know that God is just telling you from inside that I know I shouldn't be doing this. And I know some of us struggle with addictions. I know some of us struggle with just insecurity and panic, anxiety. I understand that. But you get a choice today to expose it into the light or become self-focused and continue to walk into the darkness. Listen humbly to God's truth. Turn from the foolish. There's a moment in life where you have to make a decision about direction. Because one of the things I forgot to say with this, why she stalled for a second, is this. Direction decides destination. Direction determines your destination. The direction I choose to go, not even the place. Because look, I can be way down here. I could be the mocker of all mockers, but as long as I'm turning and facing the light again, my direction changes, we're on a good path. Things are going to look up. Things are going to get better. Better to be here, better to have been a mocker looking towards God now than being that simple fool still looking at themselves in their shadow. See the difference? See this distinction? The direction determines your destination. If I want to go to the bathroom over there, I don't start walking that way. I'm going to have to pee in the parking lot. See what I'm saying? The direction determines the destination. What direction are you facing? The last one is walk with the wise. When we walk with the wise, we become wise. That means accountability. It means having people there who talk into your life and allowing them to do so. It's hearing things that you don't want to hear and understanding they love you. It's having your deep, dark shadows exposed by the light and knowing that God loves you. And you notice I didn't say that once you do this once, you get done. What did I put at the end? Repeat until wise. It's a repetition. You're going to go back through it again and again and again. There's no, I'm good now. It's a process. Repeat till wise. So, listen humbly. Listen, turn, walk. Those are your three words you have to remember. If you remember nothing else, we're going to remember our one passage, and we're going to remember. Listen humbly to truth. Turn from the foolish. Walk with the wise. Repeat until wise. Last passage, I'll share a couple more passages with you, says this, is the teaching of the wise is the fountain of life, turning a person from the snares of death. The teaching of the wise captures you and removes you from the snares of death. And the passage that you're going to remember all, and you're going to go away with is this one. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Repeat that with me. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. It's Proverbs 13:20. It should be highlighted in everybody's phone, Bible, on their mirror. You make the choice daily. In closing, we'll say this. What fools have you been walking around with? Which one of the fools do you relate with the most? Be honest. Don't fool yourself. Do you find yourself in messy relationships all the time or messy situations all the time? Be honest. You might be a fool. Do you hide in the shadows a lot? You might be a fool. Don't want you to stay there. God wants you to turn to the light. Now, a lot of you guys are wise people in this room. Some of the wisest people I know are in this room. Let's say you're wise. Is there anything that's tempting you right now to turn around and walk away? Expose it. Not saying you're doing it, but is it sneaking in? Do you know a fool who needs somebody to walk with them? That's our job. It's risky. It's scary. We got to be careful. We got to be grounded. You got to remain being wise on your own. You got to you need to keep doing those things we talked about. You need to keep being accountable to somebody if you're even going to think about impacting the life of a fool. You know fools. Every one of us does. They just don't know they're fools yet. Our job is to share that with them in a loving and caring way so they can turn away from the shadows, away from just seeing the world about themselves. Let me just close in a word of prayer.